Coming up, America is a compassionate nation, but after decades and decades of babysitting the world, added to years and years of welcoming the world's people to come take advantage of our homeland, well, the compassion is running a bit thin. Maybe, just maybe, we can start getting something out of our blood, sweat, tears, and taxes. From ending the war in Ukraine to ending the NGO globalist blank check to downsizing Big Brother government right here at home, can it really be done? Well, I'm bringing in our friend Tim Kennedy for his take. Then, anti ICE activists, illegal immigrant enablers, really, are going to great lengths to not only thwart the law, but endanger the agents and officers tasked with enforcing it. And yeah, I have some final thoughts. The show starts in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsor. I recently tried the Cozy Earth bamboo bed sheet set, and let me tell you guys, they blew me away. These sheets are ultra soft, they're temperature regulating and sustainably crafted. My husband and our two fur babies love these sheets. They're soft without being hot and cozy without making you sweat. They also come with a really cute carrying case, making them a perfect gift. You'll love them, just take my word for it. Cozy Earth has also blessed me with my new favorite pajama set. The Cozy Earth bamboo pajama sets are not only stylish, but they're also breathable. They have buttery soft fabric that you won't want to take off. I love lounging them at home with my husband and the dogs, and they're always with me when I travel for work. They're cute and comfortable, and they're also breathable. Get 40% off Cozy Earth at cozyearth.com/Tommy with my code Tommy. And don't forget, if you're asked in a post-purchase survey, let them know you heard about Cozy Earth right here on Tomi Lahren is Fearless. Also, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the Tomi Lahren is Fearless YouTube page at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. The show starts now. So here we go again with the activist judges rushing in to keep government big and keep the aid dollars flowing to nonprofit and NGOs, or maybe more accurately to the people who work for the nonprofits and the NGOs. The judge, Lauren Alekin from the U.S. District Court for D.C., ruled against the pause of all federal grants, loans, and assistance programs, saying the nonprofits showed enough evidence to suggest, quote, even the threat of a funding freeze was enough to send countless organizations into complete disarray. Yeah, that was the point. These groups are like whiny little sugar babies waiting for their allowance from daddy, but providing relatively little reason, if any, to justify their handouts. This is precisely why nothing ever gets done, by the way. Politicians on both sides are to blame. They all go to D.C. saying they're going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse and downsize government, and they get there and they grow it anyway. Democrats do it because they are globalists who love sending our money to Timbuktu for drag shows, but Republicans in Congress do it too. For what reason, I'm not entirely sure. And the same thing with the war in Ukraine. For 3 freaking years, we've been funding this, and now that the Trump team is on the cusp of ending it, we've got Democrats and rhinos like Nikki Haley just begging to keep it going. I personally love President Donald Trump's approach. Why should we get nothing in return for our assistance in Ukraine? Why should we gift it? We aren't the Make-A-Wish Foundation or a Publishers Clearinghouse. Instead of rebuilding Ukraine just for Ukraine's sake, why don't we instead invest in their rebuild and put our money to work? Call me crazy, but that sounds about right. And guess what? It looks like the negotiator-in-chief has worked his magic yet again because Ukraine has reportedly agreed to his terms on a mineral deal. Joining me now is someone who knows a thing or two about it all and this whole mess. He's an ex-Green Beret, and he's also the Save Our Allies co-founder, our friend Tim Kennedy. All right, Mr. Kennedy, first of all, we had a wonderful cabinet meeting this morning that may very well still be going on, by the way. I haven't checked in. But a lot of your friends are sitting at that table. So before we go into Ukraine and all of this, I just have to ask you, all of your friends are in the game now, and a lot of my friends are too at that table. Are you impressed so far at what they've been able to do in this short amount of time?
Yeah, it's astounding. It's impressive. And they're fighting upstream. They're battling a system that has been designed, arguably for 16 to 20 years to prevent any form of change. And they are agents of change, and they're trying to get it done. But they have gotten so much done in just in the first 30 days, some of them just having been confirmed as early as last week. But in spite of all of that, they are still making headway. There's so much more to do. And, watching people lose their minds over this change, it's refreshing, and hopefully it's encouraging to everybody that's trying to fulfill the mandate that the American people made when they voted in November.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really incredible to watch how quickly they're getting these things done, probably because they know they have about a year before we start preparing for midterms and Republicans stop playing the game. Last night we had the big beautiful bill pass the House with only one Republican voting against it, but I'd imagine that as the weeks and months drag on, there will be some Republican defectors. So a lot of this has to get done quickly while the Republicans still understand they have a mandate from the American voter. I want to talk about this Ukraine deal. There's been so much going on. It seems like the meeting with the French president Macron was a month ago, but it was just a couple days ago. And talking about Ukraine and what we're going to do, and if Zelensky's going to come to the table, and if we're appeasing Russia too much. I just want to know, broad picture, as someone who really understands the region, do you think that we're headed in the right direction with this, I guess, tentative deal with the mineral rights and maybe ending a war?
I mean, ending the war should always be a priority, next to preventing the next one. It's so sad that we are in this position where we have already, given. Let's be honest. We have no one has any idea about how much money we've actually given the Ukrainians, whether it's been funneled in fraud, waste, and abuse, and laundered through a variety of NGOs, in addition to the direct defense spending. I'm obviously no friend of Russia or in any way, shape, or form communism. I'm a libertarian, I'm constitutionalist, and as a capitalist, I wholly am against any form of socialism or communism. And but the fact that we have funded this war for 3 years is outrageous. The fact that we've given them billions and tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, without an expectation of what we get. If you look at the end of World War II, we had permanent locations all over Europe. They had no choice but to give them to us, as did Ukraine. Ukraine would have been ran over had it not been from the aid of the United States. They have to recognize this. They have to appreciate this. And in addition to the mineral rights, we should have strategic base locations anywhere that we want in that country. Poland has been one of our best allies in history, having been in pretty much every single conflict with us. And pulling heavyweight, way more than what their GDP or NATO requires. They're an incredible country with an incredible military, and I expect, and we should expect, that Ukraine should now follow suit, wanting to shore up that relationship and support America as we have supported them, clearly.
Yeah, and I just am someone who thinks we should get something out of all the money that we're putting in. Like, it's not a gift, as I said. And I think Zelensky would like to think it's a gift, but it's not. And I think when we're talking about it, the thing I've heard over and over is like, will there be security guarantees for Ukraine in this deal? Will we make sure if Russia comes back and does this in a couple of years that Ukraine is protected? And everybody from the administration that I've seen thus far messaging on this is saying, we're not going to give security guarantees, but we're actually going to do better. We're going to invest. The United States of America is going to invest in rebuilding Ukraine with a stake in the action. And so, better yet, if we have infrastructure and we've got companies and we've got, investments in Ukraine, we have every reason to want to defend it from any kind of an incursion because it's a strategic interest. It's not just, well, because we love freedom, that's great. But what we love more, maybe, is an investment in the region. So I think the mineral deal is a great idea. I think actually having investments in the area is a great idea. And I think that this is genius. Do you think that those on the left and even on the right, do you think that they're going to really understand or at least admit to how great this could possibly be for both parties?
I don't think any of them are going to admit anything that doesn't serve their own interests, which is a really broken system in kind of our political discourse right now, where people won't even acknowledge what clearly is ending a war. It is what clearly is a benefit to the American people, to the American economy, and to the region, all the while projecting really clearly to all of our allies in the region, that they have to start carrying more of the burden. It is not America's burden to bear to add security and stability to that region. It's Europe's, it's Eastern Europe's. And obviously we are the most powerful nation on the planet. But we're not charity. We're not here to support what is best for Ukraine. We're here to support what is best for the United States. And if there are mutually beneficial agreements like the mineral deal, like the infrastructure, like to a degree providing security and stability because it benefits us and our interests in the region, then sure. But these games that these politicians have been playing for the past 3 years are I think, disgusting, because then they've been at the expense of human life, and we as taxpayers should not stand for it, where our money has just been laundered away without any guarantee in return. And then on the second part, just as humans, it should be disgusting and revoked at every single opportunity for this type of dialogue, where like, I'm not going to support this if we're not going to be making these guarantees. We're bartering with life and the benefit of the American people. So knock it off.
Yeah, and this whole thing, if Donald Trump wants to make a deal to end a war, all of a sudden it's, oh, well, we're giving it to Russia. It's like, no, we can't keep going like this. That's what's so frustrating. Those that just want to say he's a Russian agent and he's Putin's puppet, like, what's your better idea? We keep doing this. We just keep sending more money and more money and more money and have this continue, because Russia's not running out of people anytime soon. They've got people from North Korea fighting their war, and they don't care if their people die. It's just, they just run through them. We're not going to continue on this path because no one wins here. Let's make a deal and an investment. I want to move on to something else, because I know that you're very close to Tulsi Gabbard. I know that you're also very close to this community. So we're hearing a lot on X and circulate on social media. There might be a rogue element going on in some of our intelligence agencies. There's a quote here. There might. Well, you have more information than me, so I have to be careful the way I talk about it, because I'm not entirely sure. But you can give me a better indication of what you've been hearing. But this is a poll quote from CNN of all places, saying, "Listen, they're so upset with the way Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going in making cuts that some folks in the intelligence community they're insinuating they might become foreign agents because they're so disgruntled." That's wild to me, but I'm wondering what your take is.
I think the priority, the point of the intelligence community is to prevent, identify, and predict what would be strategic problems for the United States. And for some reason, that has not been what they have been doing for absolutely the last administration, and arguably for the last 20 years. They have been playing partisan politics. They have been supporting ridiculous allegations of foreign interference into elections, delegitimizing absolutely true stories like Hunter Biden's laptop, where intelligence specialists come out and say this looks like Russian propaganda, when we knew, and they knew, that it was a real factual bunch of information sitting on top of what was Hunter Biden's laptop. So there's clearly a problem within it. But what we have is a Department of Justice with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dawn and Tulsi Gabbard and Mike Waltz. These are extraordinary humans. These are people that have time and time again stepped up at the expense of their well-being, in some instances their reputations, their financial well-being, to serve their country in a variety of ways. I look to Mike Waltz and Tulsi Gabbard's as these flames that I aspire, I hope to hold a candle to. Tulsi having served as an elected official, 20 plus years in the military, combat deployments, currently a top secret security clearance. The woman is perfect as the director of national intelligence. And then she moves in, and the first thing that she sees is that there are small communities that have been part of the DEI transgender network and supporting anti-American value organizations. So I could not imagine stepping into that role and identifying these problems. And then the first thing that you have to do is weed out not just naysayers, but people that arguably are traitors fighting against both the executive office and now the director. Kash Patel, when he moves into office and he's sending hundreds of agents out into the field, when he's recognizing that the ones in DC that have been there for 10, 20 years haven't made an arrest, they're FBI agents and they haven't been part of a case or arrest in the past 20 years. Like, what are you doing in the agency? What are you doing in the bureau? First thing they have to do is damage control. So they're in triage mode. They're recognizing that there are some gigantic problems. They have to, address the most critical. And we have some strategic problems, national strategic crisis level problems that they're having to fix, which really puts us in a vulnerable position as we're making these changes.
Yeah, and you wonder where they find some of these people. I mean, some of these chats that they have, the explicit chats, the sex chats, the, like you said, the weird transgender kink stuff that's been going on and uncovered. It's like, people like me, when we think of these intelligence agencies, we think of like badasses that are, want to defend and fight for their country. And then we're seeing like legitimate weirdos. And I'm wondering how deep that runs and if it's possible to identify all these folks and to push them out. And if there are good folks that can replace them. Like, is the bench deep enough? I'm wondering from your perspective as someone who's served in our military and someone who's obviously very close to this issue. Like, do we have people that actually want to serve their country nobly and honorably anymore?
We absolutely do. I live in Texas and I see young men and women. I own a company called Sheepdog Response that works in the defense space, that does security consulting, that does training for the military. And I see young men and women that are servants, that have a servant's heart, that want to serve. And I see the best and the brightest for the first time in a really long time wanting to do military for their country. And over the past few years, some of the real talent, because of failed talent management, have left these government agencies and these institutions to go into the private sector because they're not going to put up with it. They're not going to be part of a chat that's thrown out some weird trans kink stuff instead of looking for operational opportunities, like heaven forbid, preventing the next Israel attack or the next Ukrainian invasion by Russia, or like China looking at Taiwan, Venezuela looking to expand or export criminals into the American ecosystem. These are all things that were preventable and are preventable, but instead they have been wasting their time and taxpayer dollars, via fraud, waste, and abuse, laundering money back into partisan organizations and nonprofits. So yeah, right now it's like it's cut mode, and there's nobody. I can say this with absolute confidence. Obviously, I'm biased because these are my friends, and I think they're incredible people, and I'm so proud of the work that they're doing. But there's nobody better on the planet than the people that are doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Well, and then we've got another, big name joining the team, Dan Bongino, named Deputy FBI Director. Again, a lot of people very excited about it. Another person that, they try to denigrate his resume because they do that with everybody. Oh, they're not this. They haven't been in DC doing this for 20,000 years, so they must not be qualified. I mean, it's the same song and dance. But here is Senator Blumenthal fear-mongering about Dan Bongino, just reducing him to a podcaster. Let's take a listen to this.
And Senator, what do you make of Dan Bongino potentially to be the Deputy FBI Director?
It would have been inconceivable that a person with his background would be head of the premier law enforcement investigative agency in the world. He's a podcast ideologue without any qualification to head this investigative agency with profound and far-reaching power over people's lives to enforce the law and also to potentially misuse the law.
Yeah, they reduce everybody in Trump's cabinet to somebody who's just a podcaster. It's like if they've had a podcast, then that must be all they've done. They really try to make them seem like they're like a TikTok makeup influencer who just happened to become Deputy FBI Director. What's your take on it? And what do you think that the Democrats are most scared of with people like Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Tulsi Gabbard, and others in this mess?
Yeah, they're scared of change. They're scared that the mechanisms, the levers that they've been able to pull for the past few years, that those have been taken away, and they have. Their ability to, call Facebook and say, if somebody posts about this story, I want you to deplatform them. To call YouTube, to call, what was Twitter, now X. If somebody says that a disease came from a lab in China, that you're going to deplatform them, or this medicine that if used or talked about, that they're going to be deplatformed. If somebody says something that they don't like, that they're going to be able to throw an agency like the IRS to do an audit on them because they have, opposing political views. It is wholly un-American how our institutions and how our government has been weaponized against its own people. So I don't think they can win anything without these manipulative games that they've been playing. I don't think they're going to be able to fundraise for elections without the ways that they've been laundering money through nonprofits like USAID and through official government channels into organizations that then have been putting money into specific partisan politics. It's unconscionable that this has been happening, but it has been happening. So they are scared that they're never going to be effective again, and they're not, because they don't have real ideas. They have been manipulating a system, and that system now has been broken because American patriots are following the law and supporting the Constitution, which everybody in government swears to do. But now, for the first time in a while, people are actually doing it.
I think they're most afraid that the money stream is going to run dry. And it might not be theirs. It might be their wife. It might be a friend. It might be a donor. Some of these organizations that are set up, this philanthropic, organizations and NGOs, something of prosperity in so place, turns out to be somebody getting a whole lot of money to run the organization that's supposedly a nonprofit, and they just so happen to be related to somebody who's in elected office. So I think that's what they're most terrified of, and that's going to be exposed. But you brought up the Democrat Party being in shambles. Now, there's been a lot of talk about a certain representative from Texas, it's horrible, being the future of the Democrat Party. Here is Jasmine Crockett in all of her glory and luster. Let's take a listen.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
That's it.
So again, F word doesn't bother me, but the regularity with which some of these rising stars in the Democrat Party are swearing and screaming and protesting and yelling, I don't think it's attractive to the American people. What do you make of their party as it stands now?
It is in shambles. It's in disarray. They're fearful of midterms because they don't know how they're going to have money. If you look at Kamala Harris's campaign, where she got the money from and how she spent the money, by the end of it, obviously lost in a landslide, right? Destroyed by Donald Trump and his ideas for radical change. She would have maybe had, I'm just going to guess, a third of that money under this current post-DOGE scrutiny. We are going to hold organizations to a standard. We are going to have legal votes with legal ways that you can fundraise. And they're scared, and they should be. When candidates and politicians fail to have ideas, of course, they're going to be lobbying unfounded accusations. I've been the recipient of that personally. But looking at moments like that, like, hey, what do you think about this? Are there problems with what DOGE has done? I'm sure there have been. Are they doing great things? Absolutely. Is it necessary for radical change? Yes, without a doubt. But if you have a problem with it, why don't you go ahead and in a very clear and concise way, explain what those problems are, and then provide a better solution. Tell us how you are going to take care of taxpayers' dollars and not, via fraud, waste, and abuse, be laundering to your friends' pockets. But they don't have that because they've been caught. They've been caught red-handed, and now they're just in scramble mode, using lawfare, trying to slow down the machine that has been identifying their fraud, waste, and abuse.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because Elon Musk talked about it this morning at the cabinet meeting. And I think he does a great job of laying it out. He's like, and he's going to say it obviously better than I can. But in summary, what he's basically said this morning was, hey, we got to do this because if we don't, we're not going to have any money. Let's take a listen to Elon Musk.
The overall goal here with the DOGE team is to help address the enormous deficit. We simply cannot sustain as a country $2 trillion deficits. The interest rates, just the interest on the national debt, now exceeds the Defense Department spending. We spend a lot on the Defense Department, but we're spending like over $1 trillion on interest. If this continues, the country will become de facto bankrupt. It's not an optional thing, it is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. And taking a lot of flack, and getting a lot of death threats, by the way. I mean, I'm like, stack them up, you know. But if we don't do this, America will go bankrupt. That's why it has to be done.
And I saw a lot of Democrats scrambling last night and, oh, they passed this budget bill and it's going to cut Medicaid from some people. And, you know, listen, nobody wants to have the conversations about cuts that need to be made. But if you don't make cuts, then everything's going to go bankrupt. I want to hear from you what you think of some of the vilification of Elon Musk, because there are some that say he's too powerful, he's been given too much power, he's the richest man in the world, he's self-interested. Now, listen, if I were the richest woman in the world, the last thing I would want to be doing is doing a government audit. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But what's your take on him and how much power Donald Trump has given him?
A fellow Austinite now, Joe Rogan, he phrased it so succinctly and beautifully, where they backed the smartest man into the corner that is on the spectrum, and he had no choice. You know, he was absolutely under attack for the past 4 years. Promises of destroying SpaceX, even though that he's made space travel way more affordable, way more effective, and really the largest leaps and bounds in technology due to him in the past 20 years. He has $400 billion. There is nothing, and there is no rational, logical person on the planet that would look at this and be like, do you know what? He's really in there to make more money, to get more power. I think it's a man that comes from broken places and broken systems that then saw the writing on the wall and the foreshadowing of what was going to be the destruction of our republic and the twilight years of this beautiful thing that was the American experiment. And recognizing that, he said, I have to go all in. I have to use with the gifts that I was born with, that God-given gifts, and then all of the resources that I have within my own institutions to lend themselves to fix the problems. And he hasn't been wrong. Every place that he said there's been problems, there were problems that were just how he described them, just 10 times worse. I hope that he continues to be effective. I think they are trying to slow down the changes that he has been making and the effectiveness that he's had. And every single American should be rallying behind the idea of what DOGE is, which is removing fraud, waste, and abuse. Not just fraud, but also waste and abuse. Those are taxpayer dollars that have been targeting and used in ways that do not align with our Constitution, that do not go with our founding fathers' vision of what this country is going to be and could be. So good for him, good for the DOGE team. And the fact that they are receiving death threats, that institutions like the intelligence community are now attacking him, you have to know you're on the right track. You have to know that you're doing the right thing. And this should just be a statement of a proclamation of what is to come. And there's going to be a lot more of it.
I hope that he's got an amazing security team, because as much as I'm worried about President Donald Trump, I'm also worried about Elon Musk. I mean, there's a lot of people that have a lot of stake in, what he's doing and what he's uncovering. And I'm worried for him. I mean, he's the richest man in the world. I'm sure he's got security on lock, but I worry about it. I worry about him, and I think that he's going to be ruffling a lot of feathers in some really high places around the world. And I hope that he's watching his back, because we need him and we need President Donald Trump. And we so appreciate your commentary and your analysis as always. It's been a joy also for me to follow you on social media and see you with all these great leaders in their corner. And I think that your advocacy of a lot of these people has also, given comfort to a lot of folks who maybe weren't comfortable before, because they trust you and they appreciate you. So as always, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you soon.
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate your time. Thanks for your voice of freedom.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. All right. Anti-ICE freaks are now actively endangering the lives of our brave and noble immigration agents. And in my opinion, they should too go to Gitmo for treason. I have some final thoughts, sponsored by Cozy Earth. So California is home to the largest population of illegals in the United States. What a thing for the tourism board to boast about, right? But anyway, we knew as soon as Border Czar Tom Homan gave his ICE agents the green light to actually enforce immigration law, there would be idiots trying to stop it. But this latest tactic, happening mostly in Los Angeles, goes well beyond blocking traffic or waving Mexican flags. This is, well, it's treason. Anti-ICE activists are actually tracking ICE agents, stalking them, really, and disrupting their work. Oh, and they're bragging about it. Welcome to frickin' California, y'all.
We are training the members of the coalition to do these patrols. We've been doing the patrols for years in Los Angeles and San Diego, but yesterday we had more than 150 people combing through the streets of Los Angeles looking for any ICE activity. And early in the morning, we found 2 operations, and luckily we were able to defend those 2 communities from those ICE raids.
So tell me a little bit about what is working, because you are patrolling these communities. What's working, what isn't working, and how is the community responding to you patrolling the streets?
What's working are the patrols. We're in every neighborhood of Los Angeles. This morning already, we have combed through dozens of communities of Los Angeles looking for ICE activity. We do this at 5:30 in the morning because we know that's when ICE starts their operations. So before they can go and attack our community, we are looking for them. And when we find them, we alert people with megaphones. That works. The megaphones wakes up the people. They let them know what's happening. And they also let ICE know that we're there and we're not going to leave. We're going to defend our community. We have the legal right to do so. Everything we're doing is legal. We don't intend to break any laws. We are there to defend our community, and more people are joining this cause.
Defending your communities? If your community is full of illegals who have no right to be here, your community is really a compound of criminals. I hate to break it to you. And the fact that that dude has the audacity to act like he's some Marvel Avenger for stalking ICE agents and thwarting their law enforcement, well, that's really some twisted hero complex right there, although totally aligned with California ethos. But it actually gets worse than even that. Other anti-ICE thugs are not only stalking agents, they're doxing them, putting their names, faces, phone numbers, and even addresses out there. They're even posting flyers like that on frickin' trees. These agents are already risking their lives to arrest and detain criminal illegal aliens, many of whom are violent gang members. And now this? It makes my blood boil. And yeah, I think the people doing this should be sent to Gitmo right along with the detained aliens. It's treason and it shouldn't fly, not even in backwards ass California. And those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in tomorrow live at 1 p.m. Eastern. Catch full episodes of this show on outkick.com, also Fox Nation whenever you like. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.